the Reconstructionist Radio Podcast Network presents Worldview Media Podcast, where Gordon and Joyce Runyon view popular media through the lens of the biblical five-point covenant model to help believers appreciate and apply principles of exciting narrative and engaging storytelling.
Hello, welcome to Worldview Media Podcast, Episode 6, The Princess Bride. We are joined via the magic of telephone by Jordan, which is why her voice sounds a little bit mechanical.
Yeah.
So, hello, Jordan.
Hello.
And I'm also joined in studio by a woman who has experienced that once in every 100 years, true love. My wife, Joyce.
There you go.
And did I mention we're doing The Princess Bride?
All right.
Well, that's Bride. What we're doing. So here we are. We're doing The Princess Bride.
Classic.
You got any...
Yeah.
Let's see, Jordan, what are your overall thoughts on The Princess Bride?
I think it's a very good movie, and I've always liked it, but then I did recently read the book, and I have to say the book is better.
Really?
Yeah. But
That's
it's still a really good movie, and I feel like it's as good an adaptation of that book as they could have made.
Oh, okay. Well, now my impression is that the book from which they made the movie, that the book is a book about a book. Is that right?
Yeah, kind of. It's very complicated, but yeah, it sort of is. It's kind of presented like it's a commentary about another book.
Okay, and that other book is the original Princess Bride.
Yes.
Right. Okay. All right.
But I really feel like the Princess Bride concept that the book has is just so unique that it's really hard to say, like, yeah, it's like this other thing. But,
yeah.
Yeah, kind of the premise in the book is that the author knew of this book when he was a kid and then later decided to make an abridged version, and then it presents that abridged version.
Right.
Which is, of course, the whole version that we know.
Right. Okay. All right. And so you're a big fan then?
Yeah, I like it. And it is a very good movie. It's a classic.
Yeah, it is. What's your favorite line from the movie? Everybody quotes lines from the movie. Do you have one?
Well, there's the classic line. That's the hello.
Oh, yeah.
My name.
My name is Inigo Montoya. Yeah.
Yeah, prepare to die. So
Yeah,
that's a
great one.
That's a well-known one. But I think maybe my favorite one would be As You Wish.
As You Wish. I see. As
You Wish. That or Bow Down to the Queen of Refuse.
That's a good one, too. It's full of good lines. I really like that. I'll call the Brute Squad. You are the Brute Squad. You know, like,
right.
I don't know. Everything's really funny. It's a really good line. It's full of good lines.
Right. I think my favorite is, you keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. Because I think that happens all the time. The question I was going to ask you is, can you think of a word that gets used in our culture a lot that doesn't really mean what the culture uses it like?
A word?
Yeah. I think, to me, the obvious one is the word tolerance, where tolerance is supposed to mean that even though we disagree, we can live together peacefully and treat each other with respect and dignity.
Yeah.
But as the culture uses the word, it means, no, you're not allowed to disagree. And so if you're going to be tolerant, you have to believe what we say, and you're not allowed to have a different opinion. So sometimes when I hear it used like that, I kind of want to say, you keep using that word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they're not really being very tolerant when they say that to you.
Right, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
Well,
I think maybe the one that came to my mind when you asked that was just the word love.
oh yeah, right. The culture has a distorted view of what love is, which I think we're probably going to get into as we talk about this.
Yeah, so I provide good segue.
Yeah, that's a good segue. All right, so we're analyzing The Princess Bride, and we want to try to discern the worldview of the movie by looking at the 5 points of the covenant. And the first point is transcendence. And the point of transcendence is to determine who's really in charge in this situation, who's the great power. And so, Joyce, what are your thoughts? What do we see transcendence-wise?
Well, it's got to be love, don't you think?
True love.
True love. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, where in the movie, true love is kind of held up as this ideal, and it's kind of exalted as that for which everything else can and should be sacrificed, and
Yeah.
it's the ultimate value and the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
What about you, Jordan? You have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think that Mom's probably right that when she says that true love is kind of the big main, thing.
Right.
But the other thing that I had noticed about, like, thinking about transcendence and stuff while watching the movie was that scene where Inigo and Fezzik are trying to find Wesley in the pit of despair.
Right.
And Inigo gets out his father's sword and the spirit of his father to guide him to finding this man that can help them and stuff. And then it actually does do that. So,
right.
So that sort of beyond sort of helps to aid them with finding Wesley and stuff. That was something for me.
Yeah, that is kind of a mark of transcendence. Where as soon as that happens, you know that we're not dealing with a purely naturalistic world, that there are spiritual powers above and beyond.
But was that because of Inigo's love for his father that he's saying, I need to find this guy so that I can avenge you? And I mean, was there love involved with that request that he was making?
Well, I think there had to have been, because even when he's explaining his whole story to Wesley when they're first meeting and about to duel and stuff, he tells him, I loved my father, and so I challenged this guy and all this stuff. So everything that Inigo has done has been about his love for his father and all that.
So then it's still, would you say, love?
I would say that it is. I would point out, though, that I think even though it is love and it's obviously an important motivator, I think still that the true love of the sort between Buttercup and Wesley, I think that's the really transcendent thing that the movie is about.
Yeah. No, I think probably so.
The other place where I thought maybe there was a bit of revelation was in Buttercup's dreams, where you had the old woman saying, boo, boo.
Yeah.
But those aren't necessarily revelatory dreams. I was realizing that could have just been her conscience poking at her.
Although even that was about abandoning her true love and stuff.
Right. You're rebelling against the transcendent power at that point.
Well, and then if you back out of the story and you have the grandpa reading to the little boy, the grandpa's the one who knows the story. He knows what's going to happen. He's kind of the transcendent one in that situation. And still there's a relationship of love, of why he's there when his grandson is sick, and why is he doing this, and why is he even sharing this story to begin with?
Yeah. So Grandpa is motivated by love as well.
Yeah.
The second point of the covenant model is hierarchy, and it talks about who represents that transcendent power. And I guess that's under that section is where I was going to mention the grandfather, and in his storytelling role, he's the one revealing these truths and, like Mom said, kind of narrating these things. And there's a sense then in which I would say that he is a representative of that transcendent power. But I think in the story itself, it's got to be Buttercup and Wesley, right? That they are they're the only ones who really know what true love is, because they're experiencing it, and nobody else has for 100 years.
Right.
Any other thoughts on representation there, or who else might be a representative? Part of me wants to say Miracle Max's wife.
I was just thinking about them, actually.
Not Max so much, but what was his wife's name? Valerie?
Valerie.
That she wasn't going to let him get away with not serving true love, and with backing out of advancing the cause of true love. She's not going to let him get away with that. Even if it means nagging him to death, she's going to make sure he does the right thing.
Yeah.
Ethics, for me, in this edition, this episode, I think the ethical category is the one that I found pretty interesting. The third point of the covenant is ethics and morality, and how do you know what's right and wrong in this worldview? And I think we've touched on it. According to this story and this movie, whatever supports the cause of transcendent true love, then that is right. And whatever doesn't support that cause is wrong. And I think that then if you are in support of the cause of love, then you can justify anything else. And so I think that what I noticed was, as an issue then, and I don't know if it's a plot point or something that I just don't understand, but I thought it was interesting that Wesley, when he comes back and he's the man in the mask, and he rescues Buttercup and he's running with her, and he still hasn't revealed who he is. When he finally gets around to telling the story, we find out that he's been the Dread Pirate Roberts, after the story is all told. He's been the Dread Pirate Roberts for the last 5 years, and he's left Buttercup to believe that he's been dead for 5 years. And part of me was wondering, in 5 years you couldn't find a way to get a message back to Buttercup and let her know that you're still alive?
Yeah.
And you own this pirate ship, and you're universally respected and feared, and you can't get a message back to her. I guess maybe I see that as a little bit of a plot hole. I don't know if the book makes that more clear or what.
Yeah, I don't know. Thinking about it now, I can't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a pretty good point.
And then the other thing that I was thinking was, what was the mechanism by which Prince Humperdinck was able to choose Buttercup to be his queen? And talking to you about it, you had mentioned that the book does give some explanation. There's some kind of mechanism, like in the tradition of the kingdom, that the prince gets to choose whoever he wants, and then she doesn't have much say in the matter.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that there was something that happened, and I don't know. I haven't read it in a little while.
Yeah.
And, but it is a little bit more clear how that came to be.
Right. Well, then the thing that I questioned was how come Wesley was so upset with her. He hasn't done anything to let her know that he's alive for 5 years, and now she's caught up in this tradition where she has to marry the prince. I'm not sure why why he charges her with being, morally at fault for going along with the marriage and all that.
Well, I don't know. I feel like maybe Wesley has more faith in the whole true love thing than she does, especially at the beginning. And maybe, because his whole point in going in the first place was to go and seek his fortune. So maybe in his mind, the way that he was seeking his fortune had just changed, but nothing else really had. And he and Buttercup were still supposed to be committed to each other.
Oh, okay. So he's getting after her for her loss of faith in the transcendent power then?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, and you see that in their exchange where she says, "But I thought you were dead."
Right.
And his answer is, "Death can only delay."
Right. Death cannot kill true love. Right. Right.
Which is not necessarily accurate. So.
Yeah. Well, see, that's kind of what I was thinking, is that since true love is the highest power, then to doubt it becomes a great sin, and that's what he was upset about.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the same thing then would be true with Miracle Max, and he doesn't want to mess with it. I don't know. Maybe he's afraid of the concept of true love or something like that. Or I thought it was interesting, though, that his wife gets after him for not supporting the cause, and
Well, but I think with Miracle Max, he's been demoted. He's been kicked out of his job, so
Right.
he may have some performance issues that maybe he can't do what he's supposed to do, and maybe he's not really Miracle
he's
Max
fearful.
after all,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
so
he's fearful.
his self-confidence isn't maybe what it should have been,
Right.
And even as they leave and they say, "Well, I hope it works."
Right. Yeah. Okay. Now, was Miracle Max, was he doing magic, or was it just was it a medicine that they gave to Wesley? What were your thoughts on that? Was that an actual miracle taking place, or was it just medicine that was applied in time and happened to resuscitate him?
Well, I kind of feel like, especially since Wesley was only mostly dead, that maybe it was really more of a medicine type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of my thought too. And that whole bit, of course, is classic too, about mostly dead versus all dead, and that was a pretty classic scene.
Yeah.
The whole Miracle Max thing is really pretty classic, and has, again, one of my favorite lines at the end: "Have fun storming the castle."
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good thing.
So, well, I'm going to have to disagree with you all and say that I really think it had to have been a miracle.
It was a real miracle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he really was mostly dead. Had some intervention not happened, I don't think Wesley would have been doing anything else. So, and it wasn't just a matter of, here's an antibiotic. They weren't even sure when they gave it to him if it was going to work. It was like, well,
Right.
Good luck. I have no guarantees, but we'll put some chocolate on it. Because that'll help.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe so. But I don't know. It's presented in such a way that I feel like it's really hard to say where the line is.
Yeah, I think that's right. I had that same thought, that maybe it's ambiguous on purpose or something.
Well, but if you look at what we can do medically now that we couldn't do 50, 60 years ago, it would seem like magic.
Sure, yeah.
It really would. Even to go back 100 years. It would be unbelievable.
but you're convinced that what happened here was actual magic.
Well, yes.
All right. Well, I'm not going to argue with you. The other ethical concern I had was with Inigo Montoya and how he's dedicated his whole life to hopefully getting to commit an act of murder in response to his own father's murder. And how within the ethical system of the movie where love justifies everything, how that was, that's just fine. That was a noble and good thing, whereas the Bible says you're not supposed to seek your own vengeance and stuff like that. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, and you're not supposed to return evil for evil and all that. Now, I admit, as I'm watching it, you can't help but root for Inigo Montoya, and you want to see him kill the bad guy and all that. So I admit to that. I just, as you sit back from the movie and think about what the message really is and what they're saying, it occurs to me that then they allow a motivation of love to justify just really whatever in that instance.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was thinking about that myself when we were watching it.
Yeah.
And how casual it sort of is that, oh yeah, he just, he's all about revenge and stuff. And then when he finally gets it done, he's like, now I've been doing this revenge thing for so long, what do I do now?
All right. My whole personhood is wrapped up in this quest for what I believe is justifiable homicide and all that.
Yeah. So, yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah. And then also the switch is apparently made really easily from that to, well, consider a life of piracy then, where we loot and thieve and kill and destroy.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a good occupation for you.
Well, someone was getting out of the business, I think is what was going on.
Right, yeah.
Have you ever considered?
Right. I'm sure Wesley wasn't a bad pirate. I bet he was pretty good, but still, piracy is not really a great ethical place to be.
Piracy is presented as being mostly acceptable because
Right.
when they're caught outside the fire swamp, Buttercup is like, he's a sailor on this pirate ship, you need to get him back to where he belongs. And they're like, yeah, okay, we'll do that. Like, that's not a bad thing to be a sailor on a pirate ship,
Right.
No, but I think they were just saying whatever for that.
Sure.
You know. It wasn't like, oh yeah, pirates are good. But there is a lot of romanticism with pirates,
Oh, yeah.
There just is. And there's that connection with, to be wild and free on the sea and, your own master and take what you want and do what you will and, the freedom of that. So there is that aspect of the pirate component there.
Yeah, where piracy becomes kind of an idealized, softer thing that it really is. But my point is, I think the movie did that with love itself. And, the true love that Wesley and Buttercup are talking about is just as fanciful, really, as anything in a fairy tale. The true love in The Princess Bride is really no more factual love than, what you might find at a pornographic website or something like that. It's a fictionalized, fake version of what love is, and
well, that's kind of extreme there.
Well, I mean, it may be on opposite ends of a spectrum. I'm not saying that porn does it the same way, but still with like Harlequin romance books and stuff like that, where you have this idealized idea of what romantic love is supposed to be and what it's supposed to look like. And real relationships rarely, if ever, meet up to those sorts of standards, and nobody talks about the fact that, 20 years later, you're still waking up in the bed next to this person, and and maybe yesterday they really made you mad, and and what are you going to do about it today when their breath stinks and all this stuff. And, you just, it's fanciful and it's not real. And so what they did with piracy, I think they did the same thing with love.
Yeah, I can see that.
But still, at the beginning of the story, you don't see that this is true love that they have, because she's a persnickety little thing.
Right.
And, she's kind of mean. She's not really very nice. She's not considerate. She's not thoughtful. She's not an exceptional dresser. I mean, so she's got some issues here, but he sees something more in her. And I think, by the time it's true love, she's like, oh, wait, this guy's more than just the old farm boy I thought he was. And so, is it real? Probably not. But I do think that there's some times that they're getting to know each other a little bit more and seeing something through faults, which is part of love, is saying, okay, yeah, you're not perfect, but I'm going to love you anyway.
Sure, exactly. And that's kind of my beef with modern versions of love, like Jordan was talking about, that the culture doesn't even know what love is. And I'm convinced that, yeah, those feelings are there and they're great when they happen. And it's part of how God has designed us. And so all of that is good. It's just that that's not the whole story. And there does come a time when you have to decide that you're going to be in love, and you have to decide that you're going to continue to love, and work through the fact that maybe this guy really is a jerk sometimes, and how are you going to deal with that? And so, to be trite, love really is a decision, and it's not just how we feel about it. It's an ethical decision too. You have to decide you're going to do the right thing.
Well, ultimately, yes. And I think for Christians, you see that displayed in the actions of Christ, that he decided to go and do these things that were horrible, unthinkable punishment he didn't deserve. But he decided, this is what I'm going to do. This is what my Father requires of me, and this is what will be done because of that. And so, yeah, definitely there's love requires actions, and those actions can be painful to yourself.
Yeah, right.
And that's just...
It's not that there's anything wrong with the warm, fuzzy feelings and with the melty heart and all that. That's all good stuff. But
well, it is, but that's not the depth of love. That's very shallow. And you have that, and from that it grows deeper. But, I do kind of see some of that relate in the movie as well.
Oh, you think you see their love maturing and...
Yeah, well,
growing.
Especially from the beginning to the end, and, when she's just being stinky about a lot of stuff. Oh, farm boy, give me this thing right here by my hand,
Right.
And you see him really being just as you wish. I'm going to do this. I'm not going to say, you ridiculous girl.
He's being self-sacrificial
in
his love.
That he's just saying...
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I see him... And then she comes around and she's like, hey, wait a minute here.
Right.
This is fun, but there's something more.
In that part of the narration that she realized at some point that when he was saying as you wish and was serving her, that was his way of saying I love you. Yes. Yeah. Well, see, now that's more acceptable to me. That's...
Yeah, it is more acceptable.
I wish somebody would do that for me.
But you see in the movie how it's supposed to be.
Right. Right. Okay. Any other ethical questions or concerns that you had?
Well, you have...
Oh, you got one?
Vicini.
Vicini.
Who goes, the way of bad people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay, so that might be under the category of sanctions, or we start talking about how were the people who followed the ethical system in this world, how were they rewarded? Or the ones that rebelled against it, how were they rewarded? And I think it's pretty straightforward. Everybody that gave true love its due winds up living happily ever after, right?
Right.
But you have Humperdinck, who does wind up living.
He lives, yeah, but...
Yeah, but not happily ever after.
Right.
Well, we don't know that for certain.
Oh, I think
He's
we
still
do.
in charge of a kingdom. He's still got...
Yeah, but he's never going to be the same. He's going to be humiliated, and he'll have to live with the pain of knowing that he doesn't have true love, and
He doesn't have the courage.
so the six-fingered man got what was coming to him, and
Yeah.
then we don't know much. I imagine that Fezzik and Inigo wound up. I imagine they stayed together
On
as
the
friends.
Dread pirate
Yeah,
ship.
yeah. That they both become pirates together. That's my thought on it. Does the book have anything to say about any of that?
Well, actually, it's kind of interesting. The book has a kind of like an epilogue, which is like the first couple of chapters of a sequel that isn't really a sequel at all. It's just these chapters, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And they're all kind of still riding away from this, you know, the Humperdinck's place, and then they all kind of settle down as a little family, and Buttercup has a baby, and I don't know, they're all sort of there together, living, the four of them.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah, with these two live-in babysitter guys and stuff, you know.
So maybe it wasn't a pirate's life for them after all.
But the movie never makes anything one way or the other.
Right,
So,
right. So in the book,
as far as the movie is concerned, that's all very open.
yeah, in the book they just live their lives as servants to true love.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, there you go.
All right. And then the last issue is the future of the covenant, which he kind of talked about. We imagine that Wesley and Buttercup must go on to have a great family and live happily ever after, and golly, I don't guess there's much more to be said about that. What do you think? Is that the future of the covenant? Okay. And then, did we lose Jordan, or is she here?
She's there.
I'm still here.
Oh, okay. All right.
She's there.
All right. So, do we give the movie A pluses all around?
Yeah.
And I know Jordan likes it, so A plus.
Yeah, I would give it an A.
An A.
A plus or A?
Oh, I guess an A plus.
You know what? I liked it a lot, but I liked it just for all the stuff that's so memorable about it, all the ridiculous lines that have seeped into our culture and stuff like that. And so I'd give it an A, not an A plus. I probably don't ever need to see it again. But
Even though all the excellent sword play that went on.
right. Masterful sword play scene. That's true.
Because I'm still wondering how Wesley knew to go and save Buttercup from, like, the Sini and them.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Because he just shows up on the scene, huh?
Your phone is kind of being hard to hear you there, but Jordan pointed out that Wesley shows up as the Man in Black, and we're not really given any way of knowing how he knew it was time to go and save Buttercup. So that might be a bit of a plot issue for us then.
But I don't know. Pirates always are in the know about stuff.
Right, he has
You know.
informants all over the
Yeah.
Maybe
place.
so, because I guess they are kind of criminals, and the pirates are criminals too. Maybe he ran into somebody somewhere who was talking. I Okay, sure.
I can see that kind of happening, that he just says, well, I need to come. Because he obviously knew something was up. And maybe that's why he didn't come before. I don't know. Why did he come at that specific time? So,
Yeah.
We didn't talk about the grandpa, and the little boy. Is there anything with him?
What do you want to say about that?
Well, I think you see a shift in their relationship as well, from the beginning of the story to the end of the story.
Okay.
Because the little boy was like, oh, no, not Grandpa.
It's a simple character arc, but it is a character arc.
Yeah. He just comes and he squishes my cheeks and I don't feel good. And, come on, don't subject me to an afternoon with Grandpa.
Yeah, that is kind of a sweet little story arc that happens there. The deepening of their relationship.
And then even with, kissing. If it's kissing, I don't want to hear the kissing. And then, by then it's like, well, I could hear this.
Right.
I could hear it. So.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, just when he's leaving and he says, well, maybe you can come back and read it to me again.
As you wish.
And then the classic line, as you wish. And so, you see that from outside of the story. A lot of the times we look at it and we're looking just at, Wesley and Buttercup. But there's characters that are just a little bit outside of that are still part of the story. And so, I don't want to forget them.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Yeah, that is nice how the little boy almost even kind of grows up listening to the story,
Yeah, a little bit. That's true. All right. What do we have on tap for next time? We have...
What?
We're going to depart a little bit from what we've done so far. We've done 6 movies in a row. And next time, on episode 7, we're going to do an episode of a TV show. And we don't have the episode title with us right now, but we will by the time this podcast is posted. So we'll include that in the description of this podcast. But we're going to do an episode of the USA TV network cult classic series Psych, and if you haven't seen Psych, look it up on Netflix. It's one of our family favorites, and so I'm sure that'll be really funny. And so we will post the name of the episode as soon as we get it. Anything else to say then?
I can't think of anything.
All right, well, that means it's time to stop then.
Alrighty.
So goodbye, podcast land. Remember, take some diligence, but we need to try to apply the Word of God to every area of life, including entertainment and arts and media. That's all good. It should all be done to the glory of God.
Thank you for listening to the Worldview Media Podcast. Please visit reconstructionistradio.com to check out the other podcasts in our network and to download our free audiobooks. The Reconstructionist Radio Podcast Network brings to you a complete lineup of podcasts where you will hear practical and tactical theology. Our desire is not simply that you consume our shows, but that you also live out your faith in every area of life. We can talk all day long about these things, but if we fail to put them into practice, then we fail as ambassadors of Jesus Christ, our King. Subscribe now to your favorite Reconstructionist Radio Podcast Network shows, or you can subscribe to the Reconstructionist Radio Master Feed, where all of the content we produce, including the audiobooks and audio articles, will pop up as soon as they are available. And don't forget to visit reconstructionistradio.com to volunteer as a narrator or to partner with this ministry financially. May the Holy Spirit stir you into action for Christ and His kingdom.